Why, hello there everyone. I'm Laxow, aka the Kumo Sensei. 皆さん、おはようございます。And today I'm going to be showing some Brachypelmas. So to start us off, this is my Brachypelma auratum, also known as the Mexican flame-knee tarantula, and this is my adult female. And I do have two adult females, but I have no males, so I'm currently still looking for a male. But for some reason, when it comes to this species, males are super hard to come by, so I'm still looking for a male, and that is going to take quite some time because it seems like this species is just females for some reason. It's been about 3 to 4 years since the last male I've seen of this species, so if I could find a male for this female and for my other female as well, that would be very much be appreciated. So I am going to show my other Brachypelma species as well, and you're also going to notice that I am comparing the leg colors because for some reason a friend disagreed with me about, the Brachypelma auratum having really red knees in comparison to some other Brachypelma species, so I'm really just comparing it with my other specimens. And granted, my disclaimer is that people's specimens will vary in terms of their orange and red knees, quote unquote, when it comes to the other Brachypelma species. So I would like to know, what do you think about the other Brachypelma red knee or red leg species? And also, does your specimen have any bright reds or any dark reds? Because I'll be curious to know, because my specimens, it kind of varies in between. So let us see, and I would like to know about your specimens as well. Now, if you're asking me what species in the Brachypelma genus is my favorite, without a doubt, my favorite species in the Brachypelma genus is the Brachypelma emilia. That is my favorite Brachypelma species, and you will see my female here in this video, and she is kind of getting into pre-molt, so she's a bit rustic in colors and kind of beat up, but she's really just getting into pre-molt. Now the specimen you're seeing right here is one of my Brachypelma boehmei, also known as the Mexican Red Leg Tarantula, and I do have 4 specimens, 3 males and 1 female, but my 1 female is a bit too small, so I can't really breed her. So yeah, these 3 males will get a female in the future maybe if I do decide to breed them. This species is probably the most saturated here in the United States, so they're pretty much going to be very hard to sell if I do breed them, but I already made a discussion about that in a past video in terms about talking about the Brachypelma species and their saturation here in the hobby. Now, despite the Brachypelma boehmei being saturated in the market because everybody breeds them, I still do think that this tarantula species, and essentially the entire Brachypelma genus as a whole, are great tarantulas to have in anyone's collection. Even someone as big as Vines, and even as a tarantula breeder, I still do think they're an amazing species. I know a lot of tarantula breeders nowadays kind of steer clear away from the Brachypelma species because everybody's breeding it, from the beginner tarantula breeders to some of the more experienced tarantula breeders. So usually when it comes to the high-end tarantula breeders, typically they avoid it, but for me personally, I think they're an amazing species, or amazing genus as a whole. There really isn't a bad Brachypelma per se in this genus. I think all of them are great. So if somebody dislikes a Brachypelma species or the Brachypelma genus, they probably need help. This is like one of the best looking tarantulas and the most iconic tarantulas in the entire tarantula pet trade. But anyhow though, I would like to use this time to actually answer some questions because, as I always do, I do usually answer questions that people send to me through my email, and this one is about regards to mystery boxes. And in terms of mystery boxes, there is a plus side and a downside. The downside is that you're not too sure what you're getting. The good side is that you're probably going to get something worth of value or something completely interesting. But for me personally, I am not really the biggest fan of mystery boxes, and it's really just because 1, my collection is already pretty big as is, so I'm truly content with what I have. So even if I don't get any more tarantulas, I am truly happy with what I have. And secondly, I like to be prepared about what I'm getting. And although someone on my expertise and level is pretty much good at taking care of most tarantulas, I still want to be ready and I still want to know what I'm getting, so that way I can prepare ahead of time. Now, if you ever do get a mystery box, I highly recommend you buying from somebody who is reputable or somebody that has good reviews. That way you don't end up getting scammed or getting something that is very not so great to your liking. And I hope that answers your question in terms of mystery boxes and essentially what I think about it in general. Now on to the next question, and this question pretty much asks about how do I breed tarantulas. And honestly, I don't really want to make videos on that because a lot of good tarantula breeders already made videos. For example, Dave's Little Beasties, he made a very thorough and a very good tarantula breeding video on how to do it for beginners, and I highly recommend you go check out his video if you can, because Dave's Little Beasties is pretty much the go-to if you want to learn how to do tarantula breeding. And although I do have expertise and I do know how to breed tarantulas, I still do think that Dave's video will be much more better than mine's, so I highly recommend you go check out his video if you want to learn how to breed tarantulas. And I hope that answers your question. So let us get back into the Brachypelmas. So when it comes to the Brachypelma species in my collection, the majority of my specimens are male. Now I'm not selling these males though, not as of yet, because I'm very tempted to actually keep them, because when it comes to the Brachypelma males, usually they sell pretty quickly, especially if they're mature. And the reason why goes back to what I said about everybody breeding this species or this genus as a whole. So usually when mature males come around for this genus, people would buy them on the spot, and I'm usually not a big fan of loans, so I don't really loan my males out unless it's somebody I know or somebody that has credibility or someone I can trust. But that's a pretty tight spot, so for the most part, for most people, usually I'll either sell them, trade them, or I'll just buy a female and just do it myself in terms of the breeding process. But I usually give my males a bit more care than I should, but that's really just because I value my males a lot. And I know a lot of people want to have females, but as a tarantula breeder, the importance of males is so big, to the point where I can't really afford to treat them less than a female, because I know the value of what a male can bring. And this is kind of the mistake a lot of new beginner tarantula breeders have, is that they don't value the males enough. And I know a lot of people seem bummed out whenever their tarantula turns out to be a male, but if that's the case, send me an email if you're willing to sell them, and if it's a species that I need or a species I can use, I'll buy them. Now granted, if you do sell a male tarantula to me, the pricing has to make sense. So I've actually been in the tarantula market. I've sold tarantulas because I'm a tarantula breeder, which is pretty obvious, so I do know what price range I'm looking at if you're selling a male tarantula to me. So maybe consider it if it's a species I need or a species I know I can use, and if it's a reasonable price as well. But anyhow though, let us not get sidetracked and let us get back into this video. So this specimen here is my Brachypelma emilia, and this is also known as the Mexican Red Leg Tarantula, and this is actually my favorite tarantula species in the Brachypelma genus. And I know everybody has their own preferences in terms of what they like when it comes to the Brachypelma genus, but this species, the emilia, is my favorite one, and I actually would like to breed this female, but finding a male is pretty difficult. I did found one male, but the pricing on him was very high. It was a very tall asking price, and honestly, it just wasn't justified to me. But I don't know, maybe in the future I would consider him if I can't find another male for a reasonable price, because that male was super expensive. It was, man, it was way more out of my budget. But overall though, when it comes to the Brachypelma species, the Brachypelma emilia is the only species I truly want to breed because I love this species. It's beautiful, it's amazing, but it will be some time before I can get it ready. But anyhow though, let us move on to one last bonus Brachypelma. So let us move on to the final Brachypelma of this video. And this right here is my Brachypelma albiceps, also known as the Mexican golden red rump tarantula. And this tarantula is not really a red knee or a red leg Brachypelma, but it is a good looking Brachypelma, and maybe one of my top 5 Brachypelmas actually. And I'm also very surprised how the Brachypelma albiceps is still in the Brachypelma genus, because I thought that it was going to be moved to the Takahito genus with the T. vagans, the T. albipilosus, and those, but nope, this one stayed in the Brachypelma, so it's still Brachypelma albiceps, which is very interesting because I would actually think that it will be on the other genus. So I do actually have a breeding group of Brachypelma albiceps, which consists of 2 females and 1 male. One of the females you're seeing right now here on video, but in the future though, I would actually like to breed Brachypelma albiceps, but as I stated before, I'm not really in a rush to grow them out, so I'm really just enjoying them as of now, just taking my time, and when the time comes, I'll be ready. But overall though, I do hope that everyone enjoyed this video, and I really do hope that you enjoy my specimens and my Brachypelmas that I have in my collection. I do have more specimens, but these are just some of my specimens that you're seeing. But without further ado, I guess I'll call this a video for today. So, as the typical, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to stick around. I upload every single Tuesday and Friday here on this channel, and also support me on my social medias such as my IG and Patreon. Shout out to my Patreon members such as Kale for keeping my spiders fed. And with that, stay lax and Laxow out from the Kumo Sensei.